this. All right. Okay. So we are now going to shift into our work time around devising our theory of action and working around our project goals. So for those of you who have or maybe have not engaged in Project Launch before, so one of the key components to our work is that we all align on like what are we doing, why, and what is our operating theory of how we're going to be successful. So in the folder, in the Google folder over lunch, one of the things that I did was I added a example theory of action worksheet. So it says TOA worksheet, June 2023 in our Google folder. I did this just because I think sometimes it's helpful to have a resource. And while it's not meant to be an exemplar, it is an example. And so if it's helpful to have that out as we're working through this, please open it up, use it as a reference. Sorry, not TOA, not the June 2023. It's the example, the Oak PUSD partnership. I apologize. The TOA worksheet is the blank one that I'll be filling out. So go ahead and pull up the PDF for now. And then we're going to dig in. So as part of our project launch, we're going to work through all of these components. So we're going to start by coming up with an equity statement that is then going to move into our core beliefs of like what we believe as a team and what this will look and sound like in the process of our work. And then we're going to think about our theory of action. So if we do these things and this is how we're going to do them, and then this is as we measure them by X metric, then this is what we believe will be true. So let's start with our equity statement. Out of curiosity, who has experienced a project launch that has gone through this theory of action process? I need to get my Zoom to show me pictures again. Sorry, I'm going to try that one more time now that I can actually see your faces. Who has gone through this project launch process that has started with the equity statement and the core beliefs section? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of like this. For those that have been at TNTP for a couple of years, like this is the newer aspect of going through this part of project launch. So I wanted to name that and wanted to see what the experience was in the room, which is part of the reason why I gave the example. So when we're thinking about the equity statement, we're really thinking about what is an equitable outcome that we are trying to disrupt. So I've pulled us out, I pulled myself out of presentation mode so I can be typing into this slide and trying to take some notes at the same time. It's going to be a mess and I will transfer it to a different document and send that back out to the team afterwards. But come off mute and let's just start sharing some ideas. What is it that we are trying to disrupt through this work? Another way of saying this is what's the problem? Why are we here?
See rates that are just beyond underperforming literacy rates. So trying to disrupt, I guess, a pattern or the propagation of literacy rates that don't meet satisfactory.
I would like to add that I think we're trying to disrupt the idea that the funds aren't benefiting students per I think this is the RFP just explaining like how much has been poured into the state and literacy, and yet capacity hasn't been built within for literacy coaches without like a systematic approach. So that's something we're trying to change.
I think we're here to build an example for the state as to how we can support the expectation of students receiving strong instruction when it comes to literacy. I'm thinking about that replication piece of the word. I also think we're here to build systems so that again, thinking through the lens of sustainability as to how we will continue to create space. The state can create programs to certify folks to be able to support longevity in implementing the letters training. With the certification program through Missouri S&T. I think that's a part of what we're here to do. The problem that exists right now is we don't have a way to prepare people to support implementation. We don't have examples of what implementation looks like. So those are the things that I think we're doing.
I think something that we're here to disrupt is the status quo. That it has been the norm for these literacy rates across counties. It's not a rural specific problem, it's a Missouri problem. And so how are we supporting the disruption of just like the status quo of what literacy has been in the state of Missouri? Beating the state average is not enough.
I want to add that we're also here to change people's minds around that. So like we are here to not just do it, but like ensure that they know like why this is important for kids and why it is important to show up a certain way as a teacher or to know these things. So it's we are trying to transform a mindset as well.
Like going back to Monica's life map about the 99.5%, like part like as we think about, because we want to take this equity statement and we want to build something that is asset based, but we want to encourage folks to believe that 100% of the students in your state and in your communities should be able to be proficient readers. That should be the bar. We should have high expectations for all students and believe that they can achieve them. So if you take a look at the sample theory of action worksheet with the equity statement, so you know at the beginning they're really framing around like Black and multilingual learner students traditionally being denied equitable resources. So we're really thinking about really an entire population. We have yet to identify a particular subgroup that we have data on that is being denied access, but really students in the state of Missouri have been denied the opportunity for all of them to be proficient readers. So if we flip that on its head and we want to reframe it into an asset-based statement, there's an example of then what that looks like. What would we say our asset-based equity statement is? If you're following along with me, I'm like on about 2/3 of the way down that theory of action page. I'm going to move down to a further slide to the asset-based equity statement.
I'm so sorry. I'm really trying to follow along. I'm on the example, but should we also be looking at what you're typing, or is that a separate?
You can, yes. So wanting to give the example as like a, what does it look like to name the inequity? And then how do we flip it to be an asset-based statement? So thinking about the inequities that we've named on this slide. Can you guys all still see what I'm typing? I also didn't realize, like, I'm not, there we go. That's the problem. That's where my Zoom is not. Thank you for that push. My computer is just trying to do too many things at one time and not doing them well. There we go. Is that better? Thank you, Casey. So we're talking about students in Missouri haven't had access to opportunities that ensure every student can be a proficient reader. We're also disrupting this kind of like idea that like just putting money into professional learning alone is enough. And that the idea that either beating the state average or like what the state status quo is either like enough, okay, or is, like John has mentioned, just a, you know, a post-COVID problem. So what does that look like to be an asset-based statement? So if it's helpful to look at the model, you can, where they talk about, so like the example is Black and multilingual 8th graders with IEPs in PUSD will experience an increase in consistent opportunities to engage in structured academic mathematics discourse, engage with high quality grade level tasks, more equitable opportunities to engage with critical resources will then lead to, and then they start talking about Algebra 1 access. What does that look like to apply to an asset-based statement for the work that we're doing? What do we want? What's going to be true? I'm going to start with students, Phelps County.
Of access, stronger access to systemic foundational skills instruction. That's as far as I got.
It's a great start.
I do like this language that's in the example of like to increase inconsistent opportunities. So maybe something around so students in Phelps County would have access to systematic foundational skills instructions to increase opportunities too, maybe. And then some components, I'm not sure.
Bringing in that idea of mindsets, and maybe this isn't the place for it, but I'm thinking about taught by by adults or taught by teachers with high expectations or beliefs that, their children can do it. We have to wordsmith that, Kim, sorry.
I don't know exactly where this fits within this statement, but I want to surface the idea that we're working with this, like, based on John's Community Foundation's roadshow. I mean, like, huge community support here. And so that when we think about the key stakeholders involved in this, it goes so much more beyond just like a principal who has an idea and wants TNTP, right? Like, you're working with Desi, you're working, I mean, like, it's so broad. Letitia's work with the certification. So just like somehow in this statement capturing the incredible like community wraparound effort within this.
It's making me think, Casey, that's almost like in three parts. I want us to center students. We absolutely should center students in what they're going to experience. The community is experiencing a shift. Teachers are going to experience a shift. Like, there is something to, like, teachers will be supported, like, with the implementation piece, right? So it's like, we want teachers to have high expectations, but an asset is like, teachers are going to deliver or like receive consistent feedback in like the, the science of reading, something along that way of like, that's something that we're gonna provide, like, that's our mechanism, that's our entry point to show them what support could look like.
Yeah, I think it's the bridge between theory and application or implementation, and that will hopefully be reflected in retention rates and student outcomes, but like looking at it through those different layers. And I don't know if that all fits here or not.
Right, we're doing all of these things alongside teachers in service of getting the students those things that they need. So it's, if we do these things with the teachers, we in turn will see these results with the students, and they'll have these opportunities.
I'm just capturing some ideas like that. They will receive regular implementation, coaching, and support to enable them to deliver high quality foundational skills instruction for all students. In order to increase proficiency across the country. Because we do, like, student achievement is the end goal, right? Like, we want student proficiency to increase, putting in a lot of inputs, but there is an important output here. Trying to think of like this. I like this push around like the asset base for Phelps County. And I'm trying to think like, what are the words that go with it? That's what I like, so.
Say that again, real quick, Kim.
Yep. What?
Say that again real quick.
Just like middle, I have this like part down here in the middle of, so. Kind of finish wordsmithing the students. What students are gonna get access to. Have more like what the teachers are gonna get access to, but like, what about this like community impact piece? Like, we're not, like as Casey said, like, we're not just going into a school and working with a principal and some teachers and their students, like. This is about to about. This shift in a community alongside with their foundations, alongside with. The South Central Regional Professional Development Center alongside DESE. How to like, what culture, like what shift are they going to experience?
Thinking back to a little bit about what John shared and like the journey of this project, and I don't know if this is the right wording, but it's almost like in the work that we're doing, my understanding, my very brief understanding is that ideally Phelps County becomes like this model for a district and program and coaching and implementation of high quality reading instruction.
It's a great addition, Jessica.
I'm gonna add the sustainability piece here. Because there's a lot that we can do in one county, that as we think about scalability, like there's a temptation there. Thinking more like Phelps County is like they're gonna experience a shift in what it means to hold high expectations and beliefs and all things. And how to, trying to think of the right word, but like effectively support the implementation of strong literacy instruction. Like, this is likely gonna be new. But this idea of what does it like mean to support implementation? Is there anything here that's not reflected? I'll still clean up and wordsmith and send this back to the team before we use this as a guiding document, but are there any pieces of this equity statement and this asset, specifically this asset-based statement? Statements. I'm gonna move us on to core beliefs. So if all of those things are gonna be true, teachers are gonna receive supportive coaching, students are gonna get to experience high quality, systematic foundational skills instruction. We're gonna shift these beliefs and mindsets in Phelps County, and we're gonna turn Phelps County into a model. What are the things that as a team, we have to believe?
We have to believe in the possibility. Nope, take possibility out. We have to believe that change of behavior is possible for the adults that we're working with.
Would name, we believe in centering student experiences.
Can you say a little bit more about that, Annika? What do you mean by centering student experiences in regards to this work?
When we are thinking about coaching, coaching is only effective if students are becoming better readers. Not if teachers become better teachers, not if leaders know some things, like, so the end goal is student output and students learning to like being more proficient readers. And so to, and you guys over here, this stuff is hard. I know this stuff's really hard. It's like a lot of mind melding in the afternoon. But I think that is something that like I think we believe. It sounds like from our conversations, but yeah, that we believe that students need to be the center of our conversations and our work within coaching.
I think we have to believe that all kids can read, or that should have the opportunity to learn to read.
I'm adding in some of these like will look like and sound like, so feel free to add. So Monica just made me think like this will look like and sound like focusing coaching conversations on student data and performance. This will look like it. I think to like with Kelly's point that it's like pushing the conversation. Say pushing adults and using language of all students, not goals. A smaller subset or low goals. This is not like wordsmith, right? But I think we like moving past this idea, like our goal is not just that like 50% or that this idea, you know, when we moved to 20% proficiency, we moved to 30% proficiency. 100% is the North Star. That's the goal, all kids. And we've got to believe it.
I wonder if there's also a space here for believing in our own impact as a TNTP team. And like we believe that this is the right project design. We believe this is like we hold the skills and knowledge, and also are constant learners, right? So like our ability to constantly reflect, to champion our people, meaning our teachers, our school leaders, our students. Some clearer, more articulate way to capture belief in the potential of this team.
Yeah, no, we've got to believe in ourselves and each other. We're a team. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go do my thing at Dent Phelps, or I'm going to go do my thing at Newburgh. Like this is about collective effort, not individual effort. So it's like knowledge sharing, best practice sharing. You all are on this team because you bring great coaching and literacy knowledge to the team. And so we need to be the product of that collective knowledge. So I'm going to move us down to our theory of action. So this is really where we're thinking about like, what are our inputs going to be? Like the ifs. If we do these things, and the by is like how we're then going to do those things. Really getting to the like what is going to be true. And we've talked a lot about already the impact that we want to have around the shifting of the mindsets, more students or all students having the opportunity to be proficient readers. But so what are the things that we need to do? Also based on what you already know about our project.
I wonder for this, if it makes sense for us to look at, I know part of our pre-work was like reading the proposal.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, I don't know if anyone works backwards like this, like me. But sometimes it's easier for me to think of the like as measured by, like if one of the things in our proposal, right, it's like, we're gonna show, I don't have it right in front of me, I need to grab it, but about teacher outcomes or something, right? Like teachers changing their,
We
I'm
need to
just
show an
thinking like,
improvement in teacher practice.
yeah, like it may be helpful to work backwards in that way of like thinking of the goals and then like, okay, here's the stuff we're gonna do. Is just start brainstorming it that way.
We certainly can. So, I mean, like, spoiler alert, down at project goals, like, we have a goal around an increase in student achievement and teachers demonstrating growth in their teaching practices. There are some, like, other TNTP goals that we have to set, but like, when we really think about impact, we want to think about student performance and teacher practice / teacher performance. So if we want to think about like what. Can I type in here? What's happening on my computer?
One of the things I'm thinking, Kim, is like there is so much collective knowledge in this team. It's incredible. And I think aligning and getting all on the same page about like the focus as you all designed, like we're all taking the protocol training, like very much if we are all aligned on the specific key levers, like the practices that there are so many, right? Like the science of reading is vast. But if we are particular about our focus and we are all on the same page, developing shared knowledge and like picking those critical practices, that's going to increase in achievement. So yeah, align on if it's even like the cadence of best practices and focus or key levers.
Okay, this one might be obvious, but if we provide monthly coaching to 50 Phelps teachers, and then the rest of the statement
Yeah.
comes, I guess, for right, like that's what we're doing.
It is. This table wants to be really wonky in the way it's gonna let me type, so I'm gonna try this. Does that let me do something different? Nope.
You're doing great,
Right.
Kim. It's
I'm
hard
gonna
to
like,
know.
this is all gonna go in a different document anyways.
Yeah.
If we provide, I'm gonna say bi-weekly. Oh, wow, this is really about to be ridiculous.
Oh my, yeah, so I'm thinking like bi-weekly in-person and virtual coaching to 50 K1 teachers in Phelps County.
Can I push, what is the buy then?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I had the same question. Is that more the buy and the if we is more around like the shift in teacher thoughts, perceptions, pedagogy?
Do we think that what Monica said goes more in the by column than in the?
That's right. Another way to think about it is what we want to do, column one, middle column, how we're going to do it. So providing bi-weekly coaching, the things we're going to do, and then obviously as measured. And then is the end result.
Yep.
So I was thinking about the if we, and I kind of thought this align on key levers was the thing that I'm thinking, but now I think it might be different. But if we train is the word that's coming to my mind. So like if we train on how best to carry out instructional coaches, or they might sound the same as that first one, like align on what the key levers is, but the buy would be like our collaboration. So this one is more about like how we work together. How we work, so how we align on like, here's how we're going to approach this, or here's how we're going to work on challenging situations or what have you, by having weekly meetings or having coaching calls, or whatever our structure that we decide on is. Then we can measure that by like how I don't know if they're like teacher survey, like how satisfied they are with this coaching, or how much impact this coaching is having on them. So that was the idea that I was having.
So yours is a
makes
little
me
bit more
think-
like how we're gonna align, because we're gonna talk about this in a minute, we're gonna participate in a lot of learning together.
Right.
Regularly collaborate on how we're gonna coach.
Right.
So that team practice stuff. I think I get where you're going. with this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That makes me think a little too about the other part of the work stream that's around creating that coaching certificate, that if we are super aligned in our practices around coaching, because we are consistently collaborating, norming, and sharing our observations and feedback with teachers, how is that going to create a systemic coaching practice that then is transferred into that coaching certificate with S&T? And I don't know if those things are disjointed or not, but that's what it made me think of too, like how much more we're aligned, and then that becomes the systemic way that happens, and that's how it's sustainable, that we can train others in that as well.
I'm gonna put this as the then. This table just really is not cooperating with me, but I think, Jessica, what you're saying is that if we are aligned and if we continue to work together and collaborate, then we'll be able to design a scalable coaching model for the state of Missouri.
I think this is connected to internal learning and collaboration, aligning on high leverage practices and whatnot. But I think it's also like, if we leverage the knowledge base teachers have already developed by like aligning our practices, the language we use, the models we emphasize when we look at student data, I think then we increase buy-in and we increase like sense of self-efficacy among teachers.
So it goes a long way to building trust. Okay. I'm gonna pause us here for the sake of time. And I'm gonna move us on to just becoming familiar with what our project goals are, so that we can wrap up with some of the logistics and just some of the like way of work for where we go from here. We will come back to these things in our team meetings. We'll come back and I will put this thing in a place that's, clearer and easier to read and get your reactions. But thank you. This process is always a little bit muddy, but Monica and I both really think that it's important to do this collectively and be in the mud together, so that we're all invested in the work that we're doing and we're not just telling you like, here's the project, here's what you're gonna do, and here's how we're gonna know that it's effective. So moving on, we're gonna take a look,
Real quick, Kim, I was
yeah,
just gonna echo that. This is like, I'm sitting here like, these Skittles are not giving me the life I thought they would this afternoon, but I just read, like, this is hard. Like, it's hard to think through some of these things. So I just want to applaud you guys for like jumping in right away, because it's by no means easy. And I've been on both sides of the spectrum where like, I have just written a theory of action and handed it to my project teams, and then it never becomes a living document because I'm the only one that had ownership over it. And that's why it's so important we are collectively creating that. And this was just like our first toe dip in the water, really, because we're definitely going to come back to it. That's all.
I also realized there's like a good handful of things in the chat that I was not also able to effectively incorporate. So I'll spend some time before I close this Zoom out to make sure that all those things get captured in our document. So moving on to goal settings, can you all still see my screen? I just moved it onto a different screen for me so I can see it. Great.
Can you put it into present mode so it's bigger? Thank you.
I had a feeling it was gonna do this because it took us, I think, right back to the beginning when I clicked that, because my computer. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna stop sharing in this and I'm gonna pull it up in the desktop version. My computer is not always play nice with sharing from SharePoint. Okay, now we can see everything and it's bigger. Great. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is set project goals. There we go. So at TTP, we have a variety of project types. This does officially fall under the impact project type, which means like we are linking our work to student outcomes within this timeframe of really the next 2 years of the coaching network that we're doing. One thing that I'll name is we have internal TNTP goals that'll be set. It'll be in the project portal, things that we'll reflect on. And then there are also goals like from the RFP, things that are related to our funder. But for the purpose of right now, we're really focused on our TNTP goals as part of this project. So these are the 4 goals that are by default, like essentially set for this project based on the proposal and based on the parameters of an impact project. So, Jessica, just for your knowledge, all projects have a Net Promoter Score. So we send a Net Promoter survey. We ask it's about client satisfaction. Like, would they recommend us to somebody else? And so our goal is always that we receive a score of 9 out of 10, that our clients would recommend us to somebody else. And that we will have produced key contract deliverables, which is the vaguest term possible of we did what we said we were going to do. So the literacy certificate would fall underneath that, the scalable coaching model, some of those different pieces, providing coaching professional learning fall under that bucket. And then we get down to that we're going to see an increase in student achievement, that 80% of classrooms will see an increase in student achievement. By June 2026 is really when this goal will be officially measured. And then by June 2026, 80% of teachers will demonstrate growth in their teaching practices. So you might be wondering, well, like, on what are we going to measure whether students are increasing their student achievement. Those 3 asterisks are because this is a big old TBD. We're still learning about Phelps County and these different districts and the choices that they're made. We know that they have to choose a literacy assessment to report to the state. There is a menu of literacy assessments, so we need to understand what each of these districts is using, what choice they've made, if they have made their choice on what they're doing. We also need to understand what materials they're using, how they're using assessment on a daily basis. There's still a lot of fact finding that we have to do. So we don't have a very clear answer on this yet. There is not a state mandated single assessment the way that there is the like Missouri Assessment of Progress, like that starts in 3rd grade. So that's coming. When we know, you will know. And then around teachers demonstrating growth in teaching practices, this is something that Monica and I are continuing to work our way through. It's also, once we have an analyst staffed to our project, there's not an analyst on it yet, but hopefully, John, fingers crossed, in the next week or 2, we will identify that person. We will finalize the way that we are going to determine that. The Reading Foundational Skills observation tool will play a big role in the way that we monitor and collect data on classrooms. But we just want to make sure we have a really clear way to demonstrate growth using that tool before we commit to that being the end all be all. Questions about these goals?
Are these the only 4? Like for our
For TNTP.
for
Mhm.
TNTP, huh? Great. But I guess under here, there might be like subset goals, right? So like our team will have produced the key contract deliverables. Like there's several things under there that would have to happen for that to be met.
Right. So we will have a work plan, we will have a project plan of what are all of like the inputs, what are all the things that we are doing, what are the metrics that we're gonna meet along the way. But I think of this as like, if you've ever seen the project portal, like this is what we report out to the organization on.
Is the demonstration of growth in teaching practices measured by the observation, the Reading Foundational Skills observation tool?
Yes, we think. That's what Monica and I are working our way through of like, how do we ensure that really will show us teacher growth over time? And some of it is just more context building to make sure that the way that we, collect data on that tool is lending itself. Monica, I know you had some experience with this in Arkansas, so if you want to like lend some of your experience here too, happy to let you share.
Yeah. Here's the thing with like teachers demonstrating growth. It's vague enough that it can be like, okay, we have this huge observation tool, right? Well, like I picked one indicator and they're all showing growth on that one indicator, right? I don't know that we'd be willing to say like, yeah, our teachers are, knocking it out of the park, and we're definitely going to see student impact as a result of them growing. So it's just like we have to be careful on like within that walkthrough tool, if that's what we're using, would we expect yeses across the board for every lesson, and like just a lot of internal norming that would have to happen. And so, yeah, that's kind of just my experience with it, that it's easy to manipulate. And then just the norming thing is going to be super important. So.
So it's still really, it's really important that we all know how to use that tool and are normed on the tool. And then we're going to give guidance about how we're going to use that to track growth. But regardless, it's a great coaching tool.
I was just about to say that. Regardless of all of that, we will be using it for coaching because it is a really great coaching tool.
I was just going to add, we will also have an analyst on this contract who will be helping collect and guide us in the data and making some of these decisions for us. So they're not here right now, but they will be coming on board And that's a good thing to have.
All right, so the rest of our time today, we're really gonna talk it like, let's get down into like, what do we gotta do now? Like, what's coming? What do these work streams look like? Who's doing what? So I just put some names here to kind of those 4 buckets that we had talked about earlier in the project launch of the literacy coaching, the side-by-side coaching, the certificate, the scalability, and to talk about Casey's role on this team. So as you can see, you know, we have the 5 senior managers who are doing the direct coaching, led by Monica. I'll be leading, as we talked about, the coaching work with the Regional Professional Development Center. Latricia is leading the work with Missouri S&T. John and I'll be working with the department. And we are fortunate to have Casey with us for I think about the next 6 weeks-ish on this project. Casey brings a ton of literacy knowledge to the table, specifically in the LETRS program. So John talked a lot about the investment in LETRS on the state of Missouri, on the part of the state of Missouri. And we've mentioned how most teachers have been trained in LETRS. It is important that we are coming to the table with a shared understanding of the LETRS approach to literacy instruction. And so Casey has been designing some professional learning that takes the approach from LETRS and the shared base of understanding that we get from TNTP through our foundational literacy course and the things that, you know, we have aligned our best practice to ensure our team is all coming together with a shared pool of meaning around literacy instruction. Casey, what would you add there around kind of what this is going to look like and the learning we're going to engage in with you?
Well, I'm so excited about this. And I also just thank you everyone so much for completing this survey. The idea is that, like we've talked about doing with teachers, like truly leveraging your expertise because you all are so well-versed in the science of reading. And so my challenge will very much be to just sort of compare and contrast our TNTP's course and identify which components of the LETRS training might be missing so that we're all speaking the same language as teachers when it comes to models, when it comes to approaches, research and whatnot. And so I do want you to know that as I've been designing this, I've very much been using the survey results to make sure that I am not really like harping on things that you all are super well versed in. It will be a challenge. We are coming in different places. So just please give me grace in terms of I'm trying very hard to make sure that I'm meeting you where you are and doing my best to deepen. And of course, I am a former National LETRS facilitator, and we just have to be really careful about the way that I have to be careful about the way that I communicate the information, as I'm not currently representing LETRS and signed lots of contracts around copyright and proprietary information. So yeah, I'll do my best to infuse what is super specific in a stealthy way. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Thanks, Casey. And sorry.
I have a question. This got me thinking about it so we know that there was a big initiative for all of the teachers to be LETRS trained across the state. And you say like 12, there's a ton. I don't remember how many you said, but a lot.
Like around 10 to 12,000. Yep. The goal is 15, I think.
Were they trained like regionally? Was it by a national facilitator? Do we know? I don't know if we know any of that, but I just think that's fascinating.
Sure do. I can tell you that. So the regional professional development centers, there's 10 of them across the state. They all became similar to Kate, or just like Casey, they became certified LETRS facilitators through, is it Alexia, Casey? Is that who the parent organization is? They became certified through them. And then they went back to the regional professional development centers, and all the teachers then went to those centers to become trained. So two of the coaches that Kim will be working with have in fact are now letters facilitators. Does that answer your question, Monica?
So when
I-
they all name, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was just gonna mention what's gonna be really, I mean, this is fascinating because, anyway, just like letters training, like districts will spend a lot of money to even get like a small percentage of their teachers trained in letters. So it is amazing that they've been able to train across the state. But I was also going to mention that they will be highly knowledgeable about the theory and very, very knowledgeable. So I'm so thankful that Casey is going to do some internal learning with us, because we need to know what we're talking about. Like we need to be able to like match their level of knowledge, but what we're going to be able to bring in is the application. So anyway, that's just some thinking.
On that note, I'm only on course 1 so far, but I am very much working to embed the application piece, where it is so that we are thinking through the coaching lens of the so what, through video and whatnot. And I'll work on the incorporating as much of the RFS observation tool as possible. I also think it can be relatively vague and so I've created some resources to sort of unpack the observation tool. Like, what do we mean by explicit? What do we mean by, which for you all, you can define that, and what in a letters, what does a letters trained teacher's experience would that mean? So again, trying to like bridge multiple tools in order to prep us for what they know.
Yeah, thank you both. It is important that we know what we're talking about when it comes to letters. We all know what we're talking about when it comes to foundational skills instruction, but we all bring individual experiences of how we came about it to the table. Like I use the example, like I'm Wilson trained, so I came up through like Wilson foundations. The science is all similar, just the way that we talk about it and the way that we apply it might not all be the same. We will also, in a future meeting, before we were on the ground in Phelps County, talk about an aligned answer to when you are asked, oh, so you've been letters trained. Because we don't want to misrepresent the training that we have had, but we also don't want to give folks the impression that no, we don't know what letters is and are going to approach this from a different lens. We will get there. So general team overstructure, this is really what you're talking about. So when we think about all of those work streams, they're all about coaching and they're all about literacy. So we're going to get the literacy foundation from Casey, and then Monica is going to be providing us some learning and some development around what our coaching model is going to look like, how we're going to have a consistent approach across all schools and across all teachers, and then how we're going to refine that model to ensure scalability across the state. Because I think we also all approach work and have different experiences with what it means to coach. And we need to be all on the same page, as we mentioned before, which is where the letters piece comes in. So here we have some coaching assignments. So these are tentative. Monica has racked her brain in a lot of different ways to figure out what makes the most sense for how we divide and conquer. We say this is tentative because we need to get some final enrollment and teacher data about exactly how many teachers are going to be where, what makes sense in terms of drive, and what makes sense just in terms of coaching load. So in her individual check-ins, she'll meet more with you about this, but make note of initial county assignments, because part of your post work from here for the next week will be doing more of a deep dive of the context of your specific district. This is also all in the PDF version of the PowerPoint, so you don't need to like write it down furiously, but you can go in and take a look after this. And keep us moving, we got 13 minutes. So what happens in the next month? So as you all know, at this point, we are scheduled to be on the ground in Phelps County. August 13th, 14th, and 15th part of the day, like traveling on the 12th. So this is what's happening in the lead up to that on-site. So we will start on August 1st, our PD with Casey. We'll also start engaging in coaching PD with Monica. Continuing the workday learning. I know some of you were able to complete the RFS training in July. If you weren't able to do that, please make sure that you're able to sign up for the one in August. Reach out to me if there's a problem with that. Happy to work with you and Lauren Beck on making sure you get the PD that you need. And then we're also going to start working on becoming familiar with the school curriculum materials. For those of you who are not aware, LETRS is not a curriculum. It is an approach. It is a methodology and a way of thinking. So we're going to be seeing this common learning applied to different materials across these 5 districts. And so while we are not providing implementation support specifically about their materials, we need to understand their materials to see how LETRS can be best applied to those materials. We have some information about materials. We're still looking for information about where districts landed on new materials. We know there is a common trend of UFly used across, I think, at least 3 of the districts. There's some wonders sprinkled in here or there. There's some folks using iReady as their core curriculum. There's a district that's making a shift to CKLA. So it's a little all over the map. So we just need to dig in, do some learning. And then there's just a lot of visit prep and team systems that we're still we're going to get up and running. So we're finalizing the August agenda. I'll show you where it is in a minute about kind of the status it has right now. Our goal is to finalize it by August 1st. We can get all the information, like I said, context building, and then just some of the basic systems set up. So each of you setting up a regular check-in with your manager, getting that on the calendar so we have regular touch points. You'll start seeing team meeting invites from me. I'll share we're capturing some things in a team calendar at a glance, Asana, just our general knowledge management stuff. The next month is a big focus for there. And then we also have to build the presentation that we're doing on the ground in August when we're in Missouri. We'll have about an hour in each district to kind of share who we are and what this work is going to look like. But that's the amount of time we're going to get with teachers and schools in August. So we put that together as well. Any questions here?
I was just, not a question, but was just gonna state that after this call, by end of week, you'll get like a post-launch, like next steps, basically, so you'll know exactly what you're responsible for.
This is what our current agenda looks like for August. So August 12th is a travel day. There's no particular time that you need to arrive. We just need to be ready to hit the ground running on the 13th. At the moment, this is what our schedule looks like on the 13th and 14th. I know it looks like we don't start until 1 p.m. We are still scheduling with Phelps County and St. James County. So I'm imagining we probably will have a morning visit on that day. But these are the ones that are actually scheduled. So we know we'll be in Dent Phelps at 1 p.m. We're going to come back to a meeting space. We're finalizing where that's going to be for a team meeting. We'll do one team dinner together on the 13th. It's the only night that all of us are in town together. Some folks just have different schedules. And then you see we have like the Rolla for meeting first thing in the morning on the 14th, and then we'll head over to Newburgh R2 at 10:30. Ideally for this trip, we're traveling together, but some things based on, this is all part of teachers coming back and beginning of the year PD. So in the event that things overlap, we'll be really clear about who's going where. And then on the morning of August 15th, the Phelps Community Foundation is renting us a bus, and they're going to take us on a little field trip. And they're going to show us around Phelps County. And so we are going to get to learn about Phelps County from the folks who live there, from that community foundation, so that they can show us everything that we should know, you know, from their perspective. So really excited to really get to see the community through their eyes. We've asked them to make sure that we wrap that up by lunchtime so that we can all make it to the airport and fly out of St. Louis, like mid-afternoon is probably a safe. We're gonna talk about booking travel in just a second. That's safe time. This is where it is right now. Again, when it's final, we'll make sure you have access to the final agenda. That's where we are in process. At a really high level timeline, this is what's coming. Like Monica said, all of this is gonna get put into an email, or you're going to get calendar invites and calendar holds. So our next team meeting will be on July 29th at 11 a.m. Then after that, we will shift to our meetings being on Mondays at 11 a.m. Central Time. This was my best effort at looking at Outlook calendars for times that looked consistently available. So if there's something that does not work, that either cannot be moved or something I missed, please just reach out to me and I'll see what we can do around shifting the time. You know, just coordinating calendars at this level is always the fun part in the beginning. Do our first training with Casey on August 1st, and then those are the dates of the additional trainings. They're basically Thursday afternoons for a month, with the exception of the day that we're on site. The site visit, one of your action steps from here is like, let's go ahead and book travel for this. Those are the dates for the second RFS observation tool training, if you haven't had a chance to do it. If you're unable to complete, if you weren't able to do it in July and you're unable to do this one, please talk to me and Monica ASAP to make sure we can get the learning. And then September 9th through 13th is the tentative date. This is not solid yet, but I'm gonna send out a hold for the first time that when we'll be on site and actually in schools observing teachers and coaching. But again, if you have a conflict, something that we couldn't see on your calendars, please reach out ASAP. This will all be in an email. I'll also send this right now is our best thinking about what the visit weeks are going to be throughout the year. None of these are locked, but this is mostly based on what we can see in school district calendars, working around when they have days that they are out, breaks, things like that. And what we could see, again, I know we're limited in what we can see in Outlook calendars, and if you're like me, I don't have my full spring, you know, schedule booked out into my Outlook calendar just yet. So we'll send out a way to communicate conflicts or feedback on these dates. So here are your next steps. Like Monica said, we're gonna send these in an email. I'm gonna send you the entire community impact report. It's actually not that long. You don't need to do a close read of it, but I think it's helpful to give it a skim and really see what they highlight as their blue ribbons, red flags, and cautions from their perspective about the community. Digging into the Missouri DESE website and district websites, you'll learn a lot about the district by going to their school district website and clicking around and digging around about, you know, staff size, where the superintendent is also the principal and maybe, you know, webmaster, data master, all those other things. Scheduling the recurring check-in, there'll be a survey in the email that we send out. And then most importantly, please book your travel. So plan to arrive on August 12th, again, at any time. I'd safely say book a flight after 3 p.m. It is about a 90-minute drive from Rolla, which is the kind of the central base where we'll stay, back to St. Louis. Since we're asking the Phelps Community Foundation to wrap up around lunchtime, that should give us enough time to drive back and be able to, you know, check in, reasonably get a flight. Also book a hotel. I happen to be at the Fairfield Inn. I'm a Marriott loyalist, and that is the Marriott property that is available in Rolla, Missouri. There are some other options. Don't feel pressured that you have to stay at the Fairfield Inn. And reserve a rental car, because that is how we will need to get from St. Louis to Rolla, and that will be kind of standard each time. It's not quite an Uber situation or a car service situation between getting to St. Louis and being able to navigate around to school, since we might all be going different directions. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm really glad to hear that Fairfield is new. That's exciting. This was a fire hose of information. Would love to know from everybody a question that's on your mind, what you're currently thinking, or maybe just something you're excited about before we log off.
So I'll say that I am excited to engage in this work alongside you all. You all just seem like a lovely group of people, and I'm excited to get to know you more and to get on the ground with you and to learn from you. But also excited about what we will learn about the community that we are working together with, in collaboration with, and how that is going to impact our work and how we're able to serve. So I'm excited about that.
I'm really looking forward to engaging in all the learning that we're going to be doing on this project. Everything from like what kind of data, the right data, Casey's section and what she's going to be teaching us. I really value new learning, continual learning. So I'm really looking forward to that and really being pushed.
This is all new, so everything's very exciting. But mostly I'm excited. I've done a lot of coaching and a lot of side-by-side work with teachers, and I'm super excited to learn more about coaching in the TNTP content observation tool and what that looks like and action steps and follow-up. And so I'm just really looking forward to learning new styles of coaching. I also love learning new things.
Like many of you, I'm excited to work with this team, and I'm really excited to work in Missouri. I've never done any work there, and just excited to see that landscape and meet the people and work alongside the teachers there.
I'm so excited, to be able to geek out on the science of reading like unapologetically, because we're taking out the like change management equation, because you all are like bought in and knowledgeable, and we just get to like dive in without having to like tiptoe around forgiving ourselves for past practices and all those things, which would do, but also just ready to roll.
Yeah, I don't know that I have much more to add. I'm super excited about this team and the strengths that you all are bringing to this work and learning alongside and with you all. And yeah, this is always really an exciting time with project teams. It's so helpful to hear like the background, like where did this work start? And John, this might be like a full circle moment for you of like seeing it all come together, like, whoa, like this is like an egg that you've been growing, hatching. And that's just very exciting. And I think we're going to do really incredible work. I'm also, just to be honest, like also a little like nervous about the coaching side. I'm like, how will this work? We're only there once a month, and like wrapping my brain around that a little bit so I can also make sure that we are all very collectively like effective, because we will only be there once a month with coaching. And so I'm just also navigating that a little bit myself.
I also don't know that I have like new content to add other than just being excited to like dive into the work with all of you and getting the opportunity to work alongside you guys. It seems like it's going to be a really meaningful, impactful, and fun journey for all of us.
One last thing. I'm so excited to get out my Post-its and get a big jar and do the thing. I'm gonna do it. I'm so excited.
I mean,
That's
you already
gonna
have
be
the jar.
life-changing.
She's ready to go.
It's a psychotic system, let me tell you. So but we can have a whole change management with Abby session at some point.
Yes. Abby's gonna life coach all of us about how to, make small changes towards improvement. I'm really excited to like get to Rolla, like to be on the ground and see it and be there and experience it. I also just like, I love traveling. I love seeing new places, like trying new restaurants. Like I just love that part of like traveling, but also like being a TNT peer. It's like why I do a diagnostic once a year because I always just kind of want to go see what's going on in other places. But there's also so much that has to get done between now and when we leave on August 12th. Like so many relationships, so much scheduling, so many structures. So I'm like excited and like, whew, got a lot of work to do in the next couple of weeks to set this up because I think like you start how you mean to go on, right? Like we want to make sure we have a really strong start with folks and we have our stuff together. And are coming across as knowledgeable and supportive. And that doesn't just happen. But excited to do this work with all